In the 19th century, Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche was an influential thinker who replayed the importance of God's benevolence in the Germanic-speaking country with the prominence of an individual's desire to survive by being resilient, flexible, and tenacious. When challenging the commonly accepted notions with various predicaments a human often encounters when being exposed to conflicts and struggle, he successfully demonstrated the need to reevaluate such ideas. In Elizabeth Warspring's story, and in the Vienna woods, the trace remain, and met a young lad, a lucky one, who survived Hitler's horrifying Holocaust by escaping to small towns in southern Sweden with the help of a charity organization. Through his teenage years, away from his well-educated, cosmopolitan Jewish parents and friends in Vienna, he learned how to abandon his religion secretly, coping with outlandish surroundings which demonstrated their admiration towards Nazi Germany violently, and also a lack of opportunity to pursue his academic dreams. He could survive because he learned an important lesson. When wind blows, wood does not bend, breaks. The central figure, the displaced Jewish lad from Vienna, Otto Ullmann, remains a background figure through Warspring's narratives. We learn all up and downs which this sensitive refugee child encounters in Sweden, joys and agonies through wartime. We are writing words from his beloved ones who remained in Vienna, actions of his famous friend from teenage years in Pieterwoude, and general historical background records published by news media. Otto's fate and his friend Ingvar's outlandish pro-Hitler aspirations have from the beginning been sealed by the collapse of the great Austro-Hungarian Empire, despite growing up in two very different circumstances.
This small square is baptized after the famous modernistic scientist Sigmund Freud, who was the founder of what we know today as the psychoanalysis. And this was actually the historical place called Leopoldstadt, upon which the Jewish from every walk of the life congregated, especially after the Habsburg became the dominating power of Europe.
The feeling of being displaced is expressed by highlighting the obvious contrast between Otto's life in Vienna and his rustic life in a small orphanage in Tulap through the narrative. Being a Jew is first and foremost a culture identity rather than a follower of a religion in Otto's years in Vienna. For this reason, his parents do what they could to prepare him for a plausible future as a merchant, legal experts, or a doctor by installing a strong work ethic and cultivating a high self-esteem. His mutti often repeats how proud she is over Otto's progress in Hebrew, Latin, French, English, and classic Greek studies in her letters, whilst his father Joseph encouraged him to continue to pursue his academic goals. Through Uncle Paul's words, we find out that Jews who remain in Vienna could enjoy very limited freedom in order to escape the fate of joining in the ongoing suicidal epidemic or escaping the chilling mass detention. An increased number of Jews want to learn English actively in the hope of obtaining an affidavit.
According to Wikipedia, the famous Ingvar Kamprad was born in Pieteryd, this lovely, quaint society or community or village in 1926. In that time, Pieteryd was still a very pious place. According to the description from Wikipedia, there was an extremely impressive wooden church which was constructed back in the late medieval time, and he must enjoy the quite nice life here in Pieteryd as a baby.
Otto finally arrives at the foster family in Pieteryd, who needs a strong young lad who could work in the field in exchange for a bed to sleep in and 3 simple meals every day. He becomes friends with the son of the family, Ingvar Kamprad. As an adult, the famous founder of multinational enterprise IKEA often addresses himself as a farmer's boy from Småland in writing, rather than a grandson of a zealous Hitler fan. Kamprad's paternal grandmother Fanny was born in Rudnitz in Bohemia, when that patch of land still belongs to Austro-Hungarian Empire. Fanny is not pleased that her village is ruled by Czechs rather than the Germans after the Great War.
In the 30s, just years prior to the outbreak of the Second World War, I think Ingvar Kamprad spent a few of his best years in this quaint place.
Is Otto or any other Jewish refugee children from Austria welcomed by foster parents open-heartedly in rural Sweden, despite their tender age? A reviewing established newspaper forcibly demonstrates the horrible fact that the Swedish politicians display, in general, a reluctant attitude. Labor Union articulates many skeptical comments several times. They believe they need to protect Swedish manual workers from various challenges on the labor market. Young students from Lund and Uppsala demonstrate violently when provincial hospitals attempt to recruit experienced Jewish doctors and dentists from the Third Reich. In Scania and Småland, several nationalist groups arrange large meetings articulating emotive slogans and glorify Hitler's actions. Privately, Ingvar's granny Fanny is immensely impressed by Hitler's accomplishment. They address Hitler as Uncle Hitler, after Nazi has occupied Czechoslovakia as a consequence of Chamberlain's appeasement agreement. The tight-faced granny Fanny arranged a lavish party for her friends and neighbors to celebrate the German emancipation, as we could all expect. Ingvar becomes a product of ideas which circulate in his family. In order to adapt, Otto has to learn while accepting a role as a second-class citizen and a follower of Jesus Christus is far more important than traveling towards a concentration camp by a cattle train. Otto, a smart and well-disciplined young Jewish lad in his early teenage years, has to accept the fact that most eligible foster families do not follow a meritocratic system when selecting a child. They prefer a cute, blonde toddler in front of a teenager, a responsible girl with a tiny appetite, rather than a hungry lad who is not as strong as an adult man. In multiple letters, his parents repeat one request. They wish that their son could give them a detailed description of his life in Tulach. However, Otto never writes frequently. Many times, he only scribbles down a few lamenting words in the postal card, as if his life in peaceful Sweden were far less exciting than being incarcerated at home amidst all possible war terrors. How to analyze his silence? What does he want to do when praying to a foreign deity together with his Jewish friends upon a foreign soil? We never learn who acts as his new solid rock after his parents' death.
In his youth, Ingvar Kamprad must have been a quite confused lad. After the Second World War, the new ideas created by Jean-Paul Sartre and the existentialistic thinkers actually altered the foundation of the entire Western world. We no longer need a leader whom we should more or less admire wholeheartedly. Instead, the very essence of freedom means to take your responsibilities for your own action and to make up what you believe in and work really hard towards it. It's not only a virtue, it becomes the only choice for people who wants to change their life in the real sense.
The memory of his childhood Vienna, feelings of being displaced, and willingness to adapt oneself to a foreign society has meaning. As an adult, Otto is IKEA's first employee thanks to his ability to bookkeep business details in a clear manner. Ingvar Kamprad, who adores Per Engdahl, one of the most prominent neo-Nazi ideologists in post-war Sweden, calls Otto his best friend. As a teenager, Ingvar often participates in various rallies, which are organized by pro-Nazi German political clubs. I cannot stop pondering if Ingvar uses his title of farmer's boy as a disguise in order to prove that his early Nazi engagement is a result of being exposed to various crazy political ideas whilst Uncle Hitler enjoys his spotlight. Otto never moves back to Austria. Instead, he moves up to Stockholm with 500 letters from home, which he sorts chronologically and stores in an IKEA box.
Synagogue in Stockholm is one of the most guarded congregation in the entire town. I think it's a big pity because the possibility to visit synagogue, such a holy place, is really educational for all of us. What is a minority? How to thrive within your own enclave? Do you really have to assimilate? Or the key is really integration?
For his perished family, Otto is the lucky one who could escape Hitler's antisemitic horror by being rescued by a few Swedish priests who see Jewish orphans as future pious Christians in their congregations. In Småland, he is spared from all horrifying scenes of mass deportations and the sound of sirens. As an adolescent who has not yet collected much experience of life, Otto does what he could to adjust himself to the expectation of a foreign Christian and some anti-Semitic surrounding. His reluctance to write witnesses his Jewish great, of the traumatic memories which could never vanish from his head. Do I think he would accept Ingvar's apology for his involvement in various Nazi organizations at the end of his life via a telephone line? If I were him, I would not. Because the difference between an adult and a child is a person's ability to reflect self-reliantly. I encourage all of you, my dear viewers, to read this fantastic book written by Elizabeth Worsbrink in this worrisome time. My question is, which long-term consequence a person has to endure inside themselves after bending down unconditionally on a windy day?